Greetings, dear viewers. JLB here. I'm pleased to see you all again for part 3 of my mini-series, if you will, of the Walt Disney anthology series that we know today as The Wonderful World of Disney. The faint music in the background, that's my brother. But anyway, let's get on to the nitty-gritty, shall we? Now, we're picking up in 1961, right? The beginning of, Batmania, if you will. Now, of course, in terms of The Wonderful World of Disney, it was moved from ABC over to NBC on September 24th, 1961, in order to take advantage of that network's ability to broadcast in color, which resulted in the title to being changed to Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. And if you're in California, you probably get where the name came from for the Wonderful World of Color Water and Light show over in California Adventure. Now, of course, in addition, Walt Disney's relationship with ABC had sourced as the network resisted to sell its stake in a theme park before doing so in 1960. Don't know what that really means entirely, but let's move on. Now, in a display of foresight, Disney had filmed many of their earlier shows in color, allowing them to be easily repeated on NBC, because back in the 60s, NBC was the talk of the television town, because it was one of the first few, if not the only television station back then, to broadcast in color. And as a matter of fact, all but 3 Disney feature-length films were also made in color. And they were live-action films, bear in mind. The only black and white movies that they made in live-action were The Shaggy Dog, Absent-Minded Professor, which we know by the remake Flubber, starring Robin Williams, and of course its sequel that never got a remake, Son of Flubber. Now, they were all family comedies that starred Fred MacMurray, God bless his soul, and of course, on The Wonderful World of Color, they could all be broadcast in the way Walt wanted them to see it. Now, of course, like I mentioned, the name was changed so that this new feature would be emphasized, and it retained that moniker until 1969, by which time the big 3 networks, which were NBC, ABC, and CBS, I think, were broadcasting in color. And the first NBC episode that even dealt with the principle of color, as explained by one character I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with, Professor Von Drake. And if you don't know who Professor Von Drake is, then you don't know your Disney history. You see, Professor Von Drake is the uncle of Donald Duck, and he was created specifically for Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. But unfortunately, on December 15th, 1966, 12 years after the anthology series premiered, Walt Disney passed away. The world mourned for him. The broadcast that aired 3 days earlier, after his death, featured a memorial tribute from the anchor for the Huntley Brinkley Report, Che Huntley. And of course, Dick Van Dyke was also there. And if you're familiar with Dick Van Dyke, you'll know he premiered in Disney as Bert in Mary Poppins. Well, according to my Disney history, that's not true. He actually made... Or was that Kirk Russell? I think that was Kirk Russell who debuted in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or was that Dick Van Dyke? If you're familiar with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, unlike me, leave me a note in the comments to say if I was correct. Anyway, the introductions that Walt already filmed prior to his death continued to air for the remainder of the season. But after that, the studio decided that Walt's persona as host was such a key part of the show's appeal to viewers that the host segment was dropped. By 1969, the name changed yet again. But that's another story for another time.